All right, what's up, guys? Garden report. We got a whole host of people down at the possibly was that the quietest garden crowd of the entire year, guys?
It's been
For a
quieter,
good
but it's up
quality
there.
team,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd say so. It's pretty quiet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Except
not a
for
lot
all
of
of
energy in the building.
except for the friggin' the group, the stragglers up on 9 that don't leave on time. Um,
That
just what
the
Josue.
broadcast commented multiple times on how quiet it wasn't there. But honestly, when you miss that many shots, I think the fans were just sitting there in stunned silence, being like, "Did I pay to watch an NBA team tonight, or am I in some rec league game with these just like
Well,
dudes
again,
that can't hit
they, yeah,
25%?"
they didn't miss that many shots. He missed that many shots. Okay. The overall numbers are going to look poor. You remove Jason Tatum from the shooting splits, the Celtics were 48-37 tonight, or 48-36. Perfectly
Yeah.
fine shooting numbers. One person couldn't shoot tonight, and it was Jason Tatum. And that's it. And it's the most perplexing thing, and it's a season-long thing, and the numbers are terrible. And yes, he flashes every once in a while, but Tatum's been terrible offensively this year. He can't shoot. The shot won't fall. The 3-point shooting is terrible. And again, on a night you're down 2 starters, your stars got to play great. And Tatum was awful tonight. Awful.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting around it. There's no sugarcoating it. This was not even top 45 Tatum. We like to talk about top five. This wasn't even top 45. He was bad. It wasn't. You want to give Charlotte credit, but I can't, and I won't because they didn't do anything special. They
They were
weren't locking
fine.
him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these were shots that he has made time and time again, but for whatever reason, they just did not fall tonight. And it happens in the course of a season. But to John's point, it seems like it's happened a little bit more often than it should with him, and that is a problem.
But it's
Yeah,
almost inexplicable at this point, right? Like it's everyone's waiting for it, like it's a bad dream, and you see a lot of it, kind of like the post game comments and just people on Twitter, like if Tatum just didn't shoot bad or if they were a little better and X, Y, and Z, but at a certain point, you're deep, deep, deep into the season. It's a season long problem. This is, I mean, it's beyond a slump. It's a bad year. It's a bad year. It's a regression right now. At a time where you needed him to take his game in another direction, he's
right.
flat out regressed offensively. And he killed. And when you rely on these guys to carry the load as much as this team does, games like this kill you. The games where Tatum's a no-show, or Tatum and Brown, or Brown and not it's hard for them to win when they're this bad. You just need them to be average more. There's been too many of these dud games where just no shots fall, and it absolutely kills them.
Yeah, it's a bad shooting season for Tatum, no question. And I
Yeah.
think what's concerning is that when you look at the box score, you see he went 0 for 7. Like that was an 0 for 7 that wasn't like he didn't need to do that, right? It wasn't one of those approaches where you're like, okay, keep it going and you're going to turn things around. That hasn't been your track record this season. So I get it. He can get frustrated in his own head with the officials because it seemed like that definitely distracted him in this game. But he's got to get beyond that. I thought he was trying to shoot his way back into it off of that, and it just showed a regression that the old Tatum that we saw the first month of the season.
John, what was that stat that you sent us about? They went into the bonus with like 7
And
minutes left.
with 8:40 to go in the fourth quarter, Romeo Langford drew a foul. I think Keith tweeted this. Romeo draws a foul, and the Celtics get into the bonus at 8:40, and they didn't shoot a free throw the rest of the way, or at least until the point I sent it to you, and at that point,
Right.
it didn't matter anymore. That's
I mean,
just crazy, lazy, aimless, rudderless basketball.
it's crazy, and when you're shooting the ball that poorly, I understand they're like, yeah, like eventually, the averages will come out, I guess, but just stop shooting it that way. Just attack the basket, get to the line, like get in some sort of rhythm in another way. If you're shooting that poorly from three, they're basically begging you to take those shots at that point in the game. You know what I mean? Like they don't want you to drive if you're in the bonus. Why would they? They're gonna play off you and hope that this 30% shooting or whatever it is, holds up. And they played right into their hands again. We've talked about why are the Celtics always the team that are like making the adjustment, or well, they're not making the adjustment, but they're forced to. They're always playing into the other team's like hand. You know what I mean? Like the opposition comes out and sets the tone or grabs the lead, whatever it is, and the Celtics constantly are fighting to get back or having to switch something up, or in a case like tonight we talked about. I mean, you miss shots, you miss shots. I didn't even hate a lot of the shots that they took. They just couldn't hit them. Schroeder had a couple late in the fourth there, too little, too late. But aside from him, I mean, the entire team. I mean, what was Tatum and Brown? Like, they were like 1 for 15 from three or something crazy like that, or even worse.
It's the same stuff. But beyond that, it's the same stuff when he slumps too, and that like every single time he brushes up against another human being, he just turns to the refs incredulous. You got to get it out of your head, man. You just got to stop. Like it's obsessing. It's everything. It's just you got to just roll with this stuff a little bit more. It's unreal at this point. We're still having the same friggin' conversations. Like stop it. You're gonna have bad nights.
That was right on cue. Ime literally just talked about Tatum's shooting performance, and he's saying he doesn't say anything wrong with it. He doesn't think that Jason's in his own head. He thinks that he's a smart enough player to not still make those kind of mistakes. And he also said that 6 or 5 of those 3-pointers were open looks, which he does have a good point there. But he did add the caveat that going downhill Tatum, as we used to call him, right? That's what he would like to see when he's not shooting, when the 3-pointer's not falling. So
that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do.
Does.
When you are a scorer, when you are a professional scorer in the NBA, and you are someone who typically relies on the 3-pointer jump shot, you attack, especially when you've got the physical build to do that. And if we're being honest and real, Charlotte had no freaking post presence defensively. It wasn't as if they had a Joel Embiid just kind of hanging out there waiting for you to come into paint. So it became a matter of beating your man off the dribble and getting to the rim. Now they do a good job of help side defense. They have really athletic guys in that front court who can fly over and swat shots. But damn it, I'm rolling the dice with that. I am going to roll the dice that I can get to the rim quicker than they can get to me with the help side defense. And if they're doing a good job with that, that means someone's open. That means one of my teammates is open pretty close by to where I'm at when I draw that. This was a bad game.
When it gets hard,
on every level.
As you said, Sherrod, when it gets hard, you got to work harder. So like shots aren't falling. You work for better shots or you work for easier shots. You don't just keep chucking and hope it goes in. In the first half, they were actually working the ball, I thought, and getting good looks and getting decent opportunities until that second quarter. Until that second quarter, you kind of dig into that bench a little bit, and they did lose their way some. But they got off to a decent start, and you know what? I mean, look. I tweeted a stat the other day. They've had a ton of 40-point halves. They put up 27 in the first quarter, even without shooting lights out. That was showing that it was working. And then you just kind of get away from that a little bit. Like I said, that second unit struggled some. And then it just was, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 the rest of the way, it felt like.
Yeah. It was just frustrating because you could see the amount of switching that the Hornets were doing, and it was working in Tatum's favor. Like we saw him blow past Plumlee, we saw him split defenders in that first quarter, and then he completely just shied away from it. Now he may just dropped another comment about Tatum talking about.
I mean, Jalen's doing it too, man. I mean, he didn't have as bad. Jalen actually played fairly well when he wasn't shooting threes.
It wasn't too bad.
But he added one reliant on it.
He had the foul trouble as the thing that he thinks may have prevented him from being more aggressive and attacking the rim. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know. I just don't like to see that frustrated Tatum that's just yapping to the officials. There was one point after a timeout where it seemed like Ime was just like, no, look, you official go that way, Tatum, you come this way. Like in other words, stop talking to these guys, And I don't know if that's something that gets in his head or maybe it's the foul trouble in general, but he's got to figure that out.
I'm not gonna let him off the hook and use foul trouble as an explanation because this happens whether he's got 4 fouls or he has 0.4 fouls. He does this consistently. So the foul trouble, it may have been a contributing factor, but look, it's not as if it played a role in him doing something that was out of character. Because this, unfortunately, we've seen this movie many times. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's Groundhog's Day because I don't think it happens every single day, but it damn sure happens a lot. And it's one of those things that, again, as he continues to evolve and ascend as one of the top players in this league, He has to get better at figuring out in real time how to be an impactful player when your shot's not falling. Because you see, when you talk about the top 5, top 10 players in the NBA, they all have that ability to be able to put their imprint in a positive way. Game more times than not, even on nights when they're not playing well. Jimmy Butler is not a top 20 player in my opinion, but when it comes to figures to impact the game down the stretch, he's right up there. And then it doesn't matter what he shoots from the field. He has a way of making big plays down the stretch. There's a ton of guys in the NBA who have that quality, and Jason's got to get better at that. He's got to develop that. I don't think you're born with that. I think you definitely, it's something that you can work towards, and he's got to get better at that.
But when, when, I know we do this all the time and we talk about it, and I don't give them the pass for being young because they're in year 6 and 5. They're veterans here. Okay. And again, as they point out in the broadcast, and a lot of people will do it in defense of them. Hey, these guys have been to multiple Eastern Conference finals. Yeah. So that means you're seasoned. Okay. So you've been playing for a while. You've been through some battles. You've played with some really good teammates along the way. People who could show you how to do certain things. You're well into your careers here. At this point, asking someone to not complain every single minute of the day shouldn't be that big an ask. It's not that big an ask. You're a leader. I need you to shut the F up, and you just got to take it. You got to comport yourself better out there because it's bringing everybody down and it's affecting your game. It's affecting you right now. So stop. And he just can't. He can't do it. From game 1 to now, it's just part of him. So who thinks it's going to get better? When's it going to get better?
I don't know.
Think, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no one knows the answer to that question. But the big thing with him is he's got, like I said, it's not going to happen overnight. I don't think he's going to wake up one morning and all of a sudden everything just slows down and he makes all these amazingly awesome plays every single game all season. He's got to get better. And this is, again, he's far from a finished product. He's got a lot of room to get better, a lot of room to grow. But this is one of those flaws in this game that is starting to stick out more and more and nip it in the bud. He has that. It has to be one of those priority one, issues that he works through in this offseason. He's got to figure out how to be better in those moments.
Bobby Manning, welcome you in, buddy. How did Bike Watch go tonight?
I didn't have a strong eye on it. Was he on there at all?
I don't know.
I think Horford was on it.
Damn it, Bobby! We gave you one assignment.
You had one job.
I think
a lot
Horford was
coming here for Bike Watch, Bob.
I think Horford was stealing the bike at one point in the fourth quarter.
He was on the bike a little bit.
Tatum in the first half was spending more time on the baseline screaming at the refs over that third foul. So there was no stint on the bike there.
Yeah.
Oh, what a frustrating night. The Hornets didn't even play good. You see what this team's capable of?
That's what we said. They had such a blah game, and most of the Celtics not named Tatum were also okay.
Yeah.
If they really were. This was such an easy game. This is such a winnable game.
Yeah, you needed more attacking and decisiveness out of him, and I did hear you guys talking about that a little bit before I came on. The three-point looks that he got were good. I mean, that last one in the corner there was just a practice shot. So you just kind of throw up your hands there a little bit in terms of the shooting, much like the team as a whole here in this one. But at the same time, that stretch between the middle of the game there where they went 1-13 from 3 and just kept launching. I know Schroeder got a steal at mid-court at one point and threw it right back over to Tatum. Kind of an empty defensive for the Hornets there, and Tatum just threw it up. There were moments in this game where the Celtics definitely settled, and that stretch where they took, I think it was 9 of their 11 shots from 3 into halftime was a really rough stretch because they came out in the third, made up some ground. Into the fourth, they were right there. That stretch where they just went on this brutal drought where only Schroeder lifted them out of it, just like he did late, killed them, I thought. And it was all just a mentality thing. Early in the game, the offense looked great. Horford in the high post, guys cutting, Romeo getting involved. And then just one run went against them, and it all just started to fizzle again. And I thought the defense was just dreadful here. Bad lineups, small ball didn't work at all. and the Hornets attacked it. And I think both their guards had 10 assists, right? So they were both very active, played off each other well, hit a ton of shots. Just a better team, even at their worst. And I didn't think they were anywhere close to their best here.
Yeah, I mean, you can say bad lineups, but again, when your bench is Ennis, Payton, Richardson, and Langford, and that's it. I mean, you're thin tonight. You're missing, I'm not going to call Nesmith a rotational player, but you're missing 2 starters and another guy you thought you might start to give some minutes to based on how he'd been. And you got a pretty good night out of Langford, and you got some positive contributions out of Richardson. Ennis was fairly useless, and so was Payton. But, I mean, that's who they are right now. I mean, this is people jumping in the chat saying rotations and this. I mean, what are you going to do? You got to rotate a couple of those players in. You can't play your starters 40 minutes. And your starters weren't even all playing well. So, there's
doing certain things you haven't done all year though, like playing.
I get it, but we've been telling him to try. We've been telling him to do that. I'm not going to kill. We've been begging Ime to try new stuff. So he tries new stuff, and we're like, I don't know why he's experimenting. We should go back to the old shit that didn't work. Bottom line is the roster kind of sucks. So when you mix and match, a bunch
Did Romeo
of crap,
play enough though?
I thought he was fine. I mean, but, you mix and match crap with crap. You're going to get crap sometimes. That's just what they had tonight.
Yeah. And no one could get it going shooting wise. So
yeah, it is.
You mix crap with crap. Sometimes you're going to get crap. That's awesome.
With the players,
what does it make? What does it make altogether?
Right. And
1, 2, 3, crap.
I mean, like you guys said, I mean, you got to play the players that you have. At the end of the day, this is the roster. What's Nesmith going to do? Cut into some of Romeo's minutes or cut into Richardson's minutes?
Nothing.
At the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't think this was an Ime issue game, although I don't know why he's not screaming. I'll say this. In the fourth quarter, he should have been screaming at his guys to drive to the hoop.
Yeah.
Draw contact, get fouled, do whatever it takes. I mean, that I will put a little of the blame on him. I can't imagine they're just completely tuning him out. It's like you just got to get it through these guys' heads that they can't just be chucking threes at a 25% clip and expect to come back. You can't hit the home run shot. It's not going to – Schroeder had a couple late in the game, but it's too little too late by that point. He didn't do enough up to that point to get within striking distance. That was my biggest issue, I guess. I don't have a problem with him going to Freedom or Langford. I thought, Langford actually gave you more points than he probably has majority of the games he's played this season. So I don't really have much of an issue there. Grant, I don't know. Is he starting to fade a bit? I mean, he's not giving you that 3-point corner shot right now.
Grant is turning into Grant.
Blown by. I mean, he got blown by a few times.
This was a tough matchup for him against Washington and Bridges and those types. But
I mean, they did whatever the hell they wanted, to be completely honest. There wasn't. I mean, and credit to Grant. He gives it his all out there. I'm never going to question his effort. But again, it's a talent thing, and I'll question a lot of other guys' efforts, but I'm not going to question Grant's. But I just don't know if he's capable of the role that they need him to be in. And I know that they're a little bit, undermanned right now, so I get it. But
I think overall the effort and intention in this one was great from everybody. I think everybody showed a big force. They made multiple comebacks throughout the second half. And listen, the shot quality that they were getting was outstanding. You look back on it, it's just this shooting thing that plagues them isn't going anywhere, and frankly is getting worse as Tatum, I think, starts to burn out a little bit here. And, if we're sticking on Tatum for just a second, the shot making that you've talked about, John, this just simply becoming a bad year for him on the offensive end. What does that stem from? I don't think it's shot selection for him like it was in 2019. He's not taking leaners and fadeaways and mid-rangers and all this different kind of stuff. He's honestly just taking a ton of, open threes, quality looks from deep, shooting a ton of them and getting downhill for the most part and just missing over and over and over again. And it's been the story this year. Guys have bad seasons. It's not like everybody just keeps going up from 19 on. You do have dips and valleys there. But this is certainly starting to look like a dip from him, and you wonder what's influencing that. Is there any nagging pain? Is he tired? Is he worn out with the minutes? You wonder.
I mean, we know that year over year, Bobby, his rim frequency has gone down. Okay, so just being more reliant on the three. Year over year, the last 3 years, his 3-point frequency has gone up. And it's he's never been great around the rim, but now I really don't know because I mean, it's 2 straight years of decline, albeit last year was a small one, but he dropped 2 percentage points from that year where he, where he was playing really well, and 3-point percentage went down and just friggin' cratered this year. So he's just bad all around right now. I don't know if he's in his own head. I don't know if it was the thing of like giving him more responsibility and making him a playmaker that got him out of his comfort zone. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do. I think a lot of it comes down to him is like everything that he does naturally is what they tell him not to do. Don't be deliberate. Don't ISO. Don't take contested twos. Try to do more of this stuff. I mean, people want him to take more threes, right? I mean, that's an issue. That was one of the issues.
Well, that's a testament to this team's lack of shooting, though, right? Like lack of production from that specific
just based off of
category. Like even Al Horford.
Yeah.
Al Horford was shooting well above 40% the first month of the season. That's not the case now, But you look to those guys for open looks, and I mean, to Bobby's point, they got a lot of those in this one. They got a lot of open looks, but at the same time, guys, we have to remember that this is the same team that we were complaining, why didn't Tatum and Brown do more in the fourth quarter? Why they barely touched the ball, and they sort of have to figure this thing out in the sense of, decision making and late game execution and how to approach it. Some of that also asking Tatum to be a playmaker because you need some of that down the stretch. That's been a part of it as well. But I thought it was interesting what Jaylen Brown just said, though. Jaylen Brown talked about the shots that the Hornets took. The sidestep fade away from Terry Rozier. Some of the really tough shots. He said, "Look, you want them to take those kind of shots, and they made them." And he also got
they're a great team.
From our old friend Jared Weiss, who asked him a question about, or at least he asked him a follow up rather, because Jaylen mentioned the team needing to be more professional, and when Jared asked for him to clarify, he just said, well, in classic Jaylen form, sure, I know you feel me on this, but he's not quite sure how. He just says, "Can you say the question again?" He repeats the question again, and Jaylen says, "Professionalism, to show up at work every day. That's what professionalism means." Got a little chippy, and Jared was, another follow up saying, "Well, what are you not seeing out there?" He's like, "Look, it's just about delivering it every night, every single night."
Here's the thing, because we do this every night, we're forced to come up with a bunch of different things, and how many things have we talked about? Rotations, leadership, defense, double big lineups, and all of this stuff. Look, every team is going to go through peaks and valleys and do some stuff well sometimes and other stuff not. If Jason Tatum was having an average statistical year this year, closer to what he did last year, they'd probably be 5 wins better. And a lot of these problems would just be gone. This is really the biggest difference with the team right now is Jason Tatum's just playing poorly. He's just inefficient. He has too many dud games. If Tatum was at his averages with everything in terms of shooting, this wouldn't be a problem at all. But he's killing you. You're relying on him a ton and he's killing you. And it's hard to explain why. We point to playmakers and this and that, but right now Tatum is the one player who's clearly, not Schroeder. We know Al isn't the same guy he was a couple of years ago or whatever, but between the guys and the core players, Tatum's the only one who's gone backwards, like significantly so. If he was average, they'd be fine. A lot of these problems wouldn't exist.
What about Smart?
It didn't exist. Smart is slightly below his averages in a lot of things, but not. He hasn't cratered.
He's playing his role well.
Right. Tatum's just not doing the thing he's supposed to do. You rely on him to score. You rely on him to make those tough contested shots, and you count on him absolutely to make the open shots. He's simply not doing it. It's the one area of the team that's well below expectation in terms of.
And this is the frustrating. Listen, that's all true, John. I actually agree with most of that. When Jaylen started getting on the ball late is when things started to clean up a little bit. He's been doing an even better job in that role than Tatum has the last couple of weeks. The frustrating part about it is the intention for those guys, I think, has been there the last 2-3 weeks. But when you have shot-making nights like this, from them included, it's hard to evaluate just how good of a job they're doing in those playmaking roles because you aren't setting them up with the personnel around them to make it easier. Guys who move, guys who cut, and guys who can shoot and pull some pressure out of the lane. They still have no spacing on this team, really, especially without Rob. So you'd be fine with them losing some games. You'd be fine with the stats dipping a little bit if you had more proven results from them taking on this mindset that Ime wants them to take on. This is my frustration with just sort of where they're going ahead of this deadline. The roster's starving for shooting. You want to have some nights where those guys rely on their teammates and get a lot out of it. And they're still not really getting that. I mean, tonight was a little better, but it's still a 30% effort from the team as a whole. Horford hit some late. Schroeder bumped up the percentage with those last two there. But this was really just another dreadful shooting performance all around.
It would have been slightly below average for the team, but well below average for Tatum.
For sure.
You know?
And guys have bad games, and he's had quite a few of them here, carrying a massive load. I think that is a big part of what we're seeing from him this year. Just the fatigue setting in and everything that he's doing on both ends.
It doesn't mean he's bad.
Going back to last year.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he's bad forever, but he's struggling to be the guy he's supposed to be right now, which is to carry that offensive load. He's obviously done it on several occasions, but he's just the consistency is terrible, and these awful games are way more frequent than they ever used to be.
There's some fatigue through persistence, isn't there, guys, though? Like, you rely on your teammates again, you're kicking it out, you're getting these great looks, and it just keeps failing. Then your approach starts staggering a little bit. You don't know whether you're fully believing these guys. Ime actually talked about this last week, that you can't not make those plays because guys aren't making shots. He's leaning on them to do this over and over again, even though the results aren't there. And he keeps talking about missed shots. Well, at what point do they go out and get a shooter here? It's just crazy what they're doing. According to some of the lineups that they are, leaning on Horford as a spacer when he clearly just doesn't have it here. Like, listen, he's stuck in between roles, John, clearly. I think there's some balance that he's trying to strike between being aggressive and trying to do everything on his own and trying to do the playmaking things that they want to accomplish this year. But the personnel isn't there. Even if you want to say, look down on the bench and find some shooters there, what really is it at this point? And now they have 13 players on the bench. It's Hauser, it's Nesmith, who wasn't even here today, and Pritchard, who I thought stunk in this one again. So it's just not there on the roster, and it's something they have to address. I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Pritchard's having a rough go ever since you anointed him a few games ago.
But again, in very short stints, just on a few shots. It's the same thing as Nesmith.
I know it is.
How's Schroeder doing?
Yeah, how has he been doing?
He carried them again through the stretch tonight.
Just for a stretch.
I wrote my
stretch of 48.
I wrote
stretch of the last 7 of the last 8 games.
I wrote my defense of Schroeder earlier this week. He's been awesome the last couple weeks.
Yeah, that was essentially a written apology.
He's been awesome the last couple of weeks, but we spent an entire show with you guys with us arguing about Schroeder.
The Philly
one bad
half season.
The one bad game he had when you weren't here, Jimmy. I had to hear the whole Schroeder argument kicks up again, and it'll come up again his next bad game.
This is why he got mad at
dreadful one.
This is exactly why he got mad at Gary Washburn.
Yeah,
you cheated.
He had 1 point. He had 1 point in a spot.
I know, sandwiched around a series of really good games.
Well, that's what we do. We talk about the game that just happened.
He loves talking about that.
Ask him why he's been inconsistent.
We do talk about the games.
He took that frustration he took the Bobby frustration out on Gary.
Schroeder,
Yeah,
I think you said it well, John, just embodying Marcus, the feel of the game and what they need here. Again, in this one, just staggering with buckets, hitting players early from great playmaking positions. I think he had 4 assists right away in this game. So, again, he's giving you what you need, and he is saving you. Again, late, you're down 12, and he gives you back-to-back threes to even give you a sliver of hope with 1:14 left. That was great. He's been awesome.
Plenty of scoring. He had a couple of nice passes that Tatum missed, obviously, on the shots, but I thought he did everything defensively. He missed the layup. That was a tough one for him, but overall, he's giving you exactly what you need. I've always, and John's right there. We've always said that for whatever reason, the Schroeder hate far outweighs the praise. When he has a game of 1 point, people can't wait to talk about it and then bring it up again and again and again. When he has a game like tonight, 24 points, you won't hear much about it. People will forget about it. They'll just still be begging Brad to trade Schroeder for, a second-round pick and, tax relief or something like that, because nobody seems to care that that's completely bogus.
We're gonna get into the tax in a minute too.
I know. I don't want to jump the gun.
No, we will. Bobby, I want 1,500 words on that missed layup though tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, it was fine. I didn't even.
He's doing his thing, and he has, to me, the right attitude. You can't tell me that he's not trying on both ends of the court.
He's so aggressive.
So aggressive.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, well, he walks the ball up. He can't be that
Even did you
aggressive.
see?
Like, yeah, he walks the ball up after a freaking score.
Do you see? I think he actually had 2 missed layups. The one in the first half that he missed, he was on the baseline and got right back in there and tipped it all the way out and chased it to half court to get the offensive rebound.
Yeah,
you're right. An offensive rebound right after that. So he was playing hard from the opening tip. And listen, he's been, let's say, the best, if not the second best player on the team over the last week or two here. Yeah, he's been awesome. Like 50-40 since he returned.
We are going to we're going to transition a little bit, guys. I do want to I got to get this out here. Podcast brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Okay, can be hard to find the right hire for your small business. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to get to the people you want to talk to faster and for free. So we use this. We're a small business, CLNS Media. We use LinkedIn, 700 along with 770 million other people. Focuses on candidates with just the right skills for you. Use the simple tools on LinkedIn Job to filter and prioritize who you want to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So all you have to do here, you get to post a job for free. If you go to linkedin.com/garden, that's linkedin.com/garden, post your job for free. Sherrod, anything else you want to add on this game? Because we're going to move on. There's been quite a flurry of activity, both with the trade that went down yesterday and then a bunch of reports that have come out about that might put some things into clearer perspective about the Celtics are going to do. But anyone have anything left over on this game before we kind of get into the other stuff?
No, keep moving. Keep moving.
Keep it moving. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, this goes back to Tatum. I didn't really get my Tatum talk. You guys, okay. I let you guys have it.
Go.
So it just goes to me. My biggest issue with Tatum is the leadership thing, and he's going to have off nights, and I know he's not having a great season statistically, but I can't help but wonder if the team is reacting to his attitude, I guess you could say, on the court, off the court, if he's distancing himself from the rest of the guys, whether it's because he's on the bike or, because he's, family's obviously super important to him. Maybe he's just not around the team. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, it feels like there's some kind of disconnect on the court, and usually that stems from off the court. I don't know if it's an attitude issue. I know some people in the comments are saying entitled and all this stuff. I don't know if that's true, but I'll go back to one of my favorite movie quotes, one of my favorite movies. Remember the Titans. Bertier and Julius going at each other. And what does Bertier say?
Attitude reflects leadership, Captain.
Attitude reflects leadership, Captain. Yeah. And that just, to me, that sums up this team right now. Who's the captain? Who's leading? What's the attitude like? It all feels like out of sorts to me. And that's why it looks all out of sorts on the court. There's just no continuity.
Well,
and it starts at the top. It starts at the very top.
So that'll segue into a lot of what we're talking about here. And I want to get into the trade, but there's a couple reports out about Celtics making this guy available. We do know they made a trade. That trade might signify that really their major motivation for the season is the tax. There's another one talking about how they want to trade Al Horford. There's a story in The Athletic today that Al might be on the block with a potential other mystery center that they're going to get to. But the report also talks about kind of the general vibe of what's going on with the team. And again, I know as reporters, guys, you don't necessarily want to say, I think it's BS or stomp on somebody else's sources or stories, but it is interesting that it's brought up. Some of the stuff that we see with like snapshots that we kind of guess what's going on here. One of the reports was one of the issues right now is a lack of responsiveness, is how it was put in the report, to Marcus Smart's approach handling the offense. It really seems like is what that was trying to say. And that was in The Athletic earlier today, and also spoke to friction between how Jalen and Jason, and how it's kind of created a stale environment here. Not Jalen, Jason, Jalen and Marcus. So I don't know how much is, here it is. Lack of responses to approach, though some team sources have commended his growing maturity over the past few years. However, his offensive style has not grown. He's having a poor shooting season, and his penchant for inaccurate flare passes often mitigates his improvements as a playmaker. So in a nutshell, Marcus, the point guard, ain't it. Okay. But you have Marcus on one hand asking for the ball and saying, give it to me, because when you guys have it, we're not sharing it enough. And those guys are probably saying, I don't trust you all the time with the ball. So that's one issue. Another one was, like we said, the chemistry issues between Smart and have caused a sense of staleness between Marcus and Jaylen Brown. Again, that's stuff we're guessing at by just watching.
I wouldn't even say we're guessing. I mean, you can go back to the last few seasons.
I said that last week.
Right. Guessing at meaning it looks apparent, but we're not. This is sourced reporting of like talking to people in the team who are saying
we're not
specifically. We're looking at it and saying it feels
like
this is going on.
Eyes.
Yeah, my eyes. Right.
2 sources. Each one of these eyeballs.
Yeah.
Right. And we knew heading into the season, though, that we felt like Marcus, the team was going to have to Marcus was going to have to earn that trust at least, right? And I know that sounds weird, but I think the best way to put it was that we'd never seen him be that pure point guard. And I think he's still trying to figure that out. We're at a point right now where we're not seeing results. And yeah, I think it's only natural for a team to feel this way. They're 500. They're not where they're supposed to be. So it's easy to look at the guy who's been, the playmaker or lack thereof and wonder, well, what's the next move? Where do we go from here? So it'll be interesting because the Celtics have to address this, whether that means keeping Marcus in that spot and seeing what happens after that, or trying to address it and bringing in a playmaker, whether that means trading away Marcus Smart or not. I mean, I don't see this issue going away unless you bring in another playmaker, unless you bring in a point guard and hand the keys over. And I don't think that goes over well with Marcus if you do it this soon. But again, what's best for the team, that's something they're going to have to figure out within the next few weeks. Obviously, his market value hasn't gone up much, right, compared to last season. If anything, it's pretty much the same. So it's a tough spot to be in if you're the Celtics. But at the same time, winning solves that, right? I mean, there isn't reported friction in the locker room if this team is winning.
Yeah.
So the report doesn't come as a surprise to me. It really doesn't.
Sherrod?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I just want your take. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just letting Josue go on and on and on and on there for a while there.
That was fine.
The bottom line with this team is and it's the straight no chaser truth. They're just not good enough. They're not playing well enough to be anything other than an average team. Their record is a direct reflection of who they are. They are equally awesome, equally awful. That's who they are.
How would Smart be at fault here, John? Because that's what I have trouble with. Like, it's easy to look at him and say, like, he hasn't stepped up. He hasn't taken that role by storm. He hasn't done the things necessary from that leadership position to get it going. But we see him doing the things in those spots that need to be done, whether it's active, aggressive ball movement, like emphasizing the second pass in the positions he's in, playing great defense, which he's certainly gotten back to this year. And things we talked about earlier in the year that I almost felt like we and the team got on him too hard for. Not you, John. You actually wrote in his defense for calling out the Jays for their ball movement. And they responded to that, and it worked.
Well,
so
they might have responded,
to it, or did they just want to like prove again? Like there's listening.
Well, there's a fatigue.
Prove somebody wrong. If they treat Marcus Smart like a member of the media or something like that, then they just want to prove the critics wrong. They don't actually want to take lesson and take direction. They don't actually respect his opinion. They just want to. It's like the TNT
stick it in his
crew.
face.
It's like Kendrick Perkins saying something to Tatum. Like he doesn't really he's not taking it as constructive criticism. He's taking it as screw you. I'm going to show you that you're wrong and I'm actually better.
I'm past the point where I think Smart, if you just remove him from the situation, it's a plus. I think they'd be much, much worse. We've seen it in spots here that the defense has lapsed without his direction and communication out there, frankly. What I thought was interesting from this piece is just the lack of urgency in it. It sort of drew from Tatum's quiet style. That's the graph that I hit on most there. There isn't an urgency in terms of communication that you see out there on the court or on the sideline. I'm watching Wolves-Knicks last night, and they're huddled up on the court trying to figure out plays down the stretch, and they end up making a few and winning the game. I've never really seen the Celtics team huddle up or, get in a circle on the sideline and start talking to each other and point out directions. Smart's the closest they have.
They're not, but to the topic of Marcus, I do want to say this. And Sherrod, you were about to say something first. I don't know if you want to jump in, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Just the Marcus thing, we were talking about this earlier today. I'm not saying advocating for getting rid of Marcus. What I don't understand, you're going to kill the team, Bobby, or other people for being passive, not taking big swings, being conservative in their approach. Maybe there was an opportunity to make a move last year, and we kind of thought that Marcus might have been on his way out. It didn't happen. Part of the reasoning behind possibly moving on from Marcus was might need to try something new, might need new voices in the room, almost in the same way you wanted to do it with Brad. Whatever it is, it worked for a little. It's not working now. It's probably going in the wrong direction. Best to nip it in the bud. You get another season into it, and if that's still going on, whatever it was, and again, there was some stuff out there, and it's hard to say how much is real or not real, and how much it's affecting them. But what I don't get is, why is it so unfathomable to think of moving on from Marcus as being a thing that could possibly make the team better? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you read any
what's the move going to be?
It doesn't matter. We're always so hung up on...
It does matter.
It doesn't. You always get so hung up on what's next. The reality is right now, and most
you said that about Ime, and everybody blasts Ime every day in the chat.
Most people... Yeah, but the chat's not the real world, Bobby. Most people out there who cover basketball for a living, and we're talking scouts and other players, talk about the fact that the Celtics don't have a point guard right now. Their biggest need is a playmaker. They say it so matter-of-factly, they might as well be saying the sky is blue. And yet here we continue to say, like, we're fine, this is good enough, but also we need to shake it up. I don't know where you're going to start to shake things up if that's not the first place you're looking. It's really one of the few places you might be able to make a splashy move, because you're not going to trade Tatum or Brown. And right now it seems like Rob is also becoming untouchable. So at this point, what are you going to do of any significant value that'll either get you something in return or shake things up in a way that actually makes a difference outside of that? Everything else is just moving small pieces around. It won't do anything. So I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying it's so strange that we're just like, nah, you can't do that. Who's going to be better? I think a lot of things might be better, but I don't know. But I mean, what else are you going to do at this point?
I'm open to any suggestions. I'm even open to suggestions on Brown. I'll listen to anything. But there's got to be like a framework of what the move's going to be here. Again, I think some people look at Smart and say, just get rid of him because of the shooting and because of this or whatever else that it might be. I don't think this is a better team just by removing Smart from the equation. Now, if you make the right move, you get the right stuff back. Yes, 100% you could certainly be better. And I do buy into the staleness a little bit of this trio and this group as a whole, and even maybe some of the voices who are just shaping the direction of this team at this point. I think all that could be valid. They only have so much here in terms of, you look at Tatum, Brown, Rob, you're holding on to those guys tight, but I don't think Smart's a bridge to a different point guard. I don't think you can upgrade at that position by moving on from him. You can move to a shooter, you could pivot to a wing, but then you're even weaker at point guard. And again, he's not the best point guard in the world, but he's the best you have, and the numbers bear that out in his on-off numbers.
I pissed off the whole chat. I just mean Twitter, people who comment a lot of things. This isn't necessarily indicative of what we're talking about. Most people here are, in general, think that Marcus Smart is, I'm not saying the problem, but the problem with the Celtics stems from their lack of playmaker right now. So who's going to replace
the problem is he's too high in the hierarchy. We've all known
who's going to replace the non-playmaker they already have and be the non-playmaker they need. I mean, like, what are you asking to do here? I'm not really sure. I just don't know, if it's affecting your star players in a negative way and it's not helping them, because as we've seen, the numbers are down, the offense struggles. What else are you going to do?
Well, here's the issue is figuring out what's the pathway to prosperity for the Celtics. And when you start looking at their roster, it has to be a sacrificial lamb in order to move in that direction. Marcus is it. I hate to say it, but he's that piece. And the reason why, Bobby, is because he's the one piece that has, I think, does have the kind of intangibles that lots of teams could benefit from. It's just that I think the Celtics have tapped into that particular reservoir as much as they can get out of that. And I hate to be like that about it, but if they're at some point they're going to have to upgrade either that backcourt in some way, shape, or form. Because I don't think adding another shooter is going to get it done. I don't think bringing in a pass first point guard is going to get it done. But they have to address that position, and he is your best chip that you can
Yeah.
play that can get you something. That's really what this is about. It's not about whether he's a good or bad player, because I think he's a very good player. It can help a lot. But I just think if you're the Celtics and you are in your mind, you have to move on from where you are right now. He's the best chip that you can play to get you something of value. Because
And so
any
that
deal with Tatum and Brown, you're giving away the best part of the deal. You're giving away a piece
Well,
that
what would you?
so who dangles this today? Today it comes out that everyone's on the table. So what we talked about, and Sherrod, you talked about it on your I know, but Sherrod, you talked about it on your pod with Gary, and Gary's opinion was he'd be pretty annoyed if the Celtics became sellers here. I'm highly in favor of them becoming sellers for two reasons. One, these guys aren't it, and they're not getting you there. I also don't think that you're going to be that much worse if you do sell off a couple of pieces and play the other guys that you have there. And they're not great, but I just don't think it's going to make that big a difference. If somebody is willing to give you something real for any of these veteran players and throw Al in the mix as well, I think you do it. I think you have to do it.
I think you have to have, I think, more of a seller mindset to get some assets that have, to me, high.
You're selling now to buy later.
Yeah, and to me, you got to get guys who fall into the category of low risk, high reward type players, like Bobo. He has not done much at all, but he's 7'2", and he's a wing. That in the right situation could be a steal. Now, right now, obviously not. But you have to start lining up your pieces where there's the potential for them to be something significantly greater than what they are now. Because Grant Williams is having a great season. But when you think about his ceiling, I'm not sure he's that far away from hitting it right now. I think he still is going to get better. I think he still has some room to grow, but I don't think there's a ton of room to grow. Whereas you take a guy like Bobo, who's, again, 7'2", can put the ball on the floor. At one point, he was projected to be like a top 10 pick in the draft. That's someone you roll the dice with, because there are very specific skills and talents that they have that in the right situation could be a significant benefit to you.
Did you guys ever see Being John Malkovich?
Oh.
No. All right, that's great. You have to have seen the movie. Anyway, they got really short ceilings. Bull. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Bull. That's the future.
That's where we're at in the season now, hinging on Bull. I mean,
Jimmy, it's a team. What the hell do you expect, Jimmy?
Exactly.
I know. This isn't Milwaukee. This isn't Brooklyn. I mean, this is who they are.
Why do you think they couldn't get Cam Reddish?
I don't think they wanted
Cam Reddish because they didn't want to pay Cam Reddish.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they were in on the move at all. And you would have to give up your first-round pick. The Knicks gave up a different team's first-round pick, so there's a big difference there. Yeah. I didn't think that was a move that was necessarily worth going that far. And, I love trading picks, but for the right guys.
I didn't think it cost a whole lot. And you get a guy that's shown – this is just an example. I'm not, dying for them to get Cam Reddish, but I feel like those types of trades are the ones – you're the Celtics you're looking for because you've missed.
It's the right idea. I'm not sure it's the right guy.
Yeah, but I mean, no, you're not sure if it's the right guy. That's why he's available, and that's why you can get him for that price. Once he is the right guy, guess what? You can't get him anymore. So that's the whole point. You got to take a risk.
That's the point. Yes,
it was a good trade. Your version of it would have been like Neesmith and a first.
Yeah, and okay, I mean,
you have to take a speculative swing.
It becomes the 16th pick and you miss on it. I mean, is the pick going to be better than Reddish, a guy that when he gets minutes has shown that he can actually play in this league? He just can't get them playing time.
It's a speculative ad. You're trying to catch a guy before he takes off.
Tell me that Celtics Twitter and everybody wearing green underwear wouldn't be head over heels if Brad made that deal. Neesmith.
I would have liked it a lot. The thinking's great there.
Oh my God, genius, Brad! He's so smart.
He did it again.
I've been watching Reddish for a long time, and he's just gotten more underwhelming as time's gone on. He's young. In the right role, he could catch some fire here, and he is due to be paid. Who knows how that's going to go in terms of restricted free agency there. That's probably the tricky part of this, right? That's why the Hawks gave him up. They didn't want to pay him. No, I like the example, Jimmy, because that was the high end of what you could do there. Bull's an example, too. A guy that just didn't work in Denver, and you end up getting him as a dumping and this cap shedding move here. So they're starting to take a look at these things. They're certainly looking at Jalen Smith too. It sounded like in that regard. Listen, these moves aren't solutions. Reddish isn't going to save the Celtics. Bowl and none of these guys are gonna. But it's just about building up a more well-rounded roster.
No,
they're not.
Yeah, they are. Neither of them have done anything.
Cam Reddish and Bowl are in the same category.
Cam Reddish is like a 38% career shooter. He's a bigger name than he is an actual talent in this league right now.
I understand that, but Bowl might not be playing basketball in a couple of years.
Maybe.
Bowl is like a meme, dude. Like that he doesn't have any. There's nothing behind anything he's done in the league. Reddish is at least shown.
Listen, there's a gap between them certainly, but in terms of the impact on the team, His Bowl's hurt now. He's going to be out probably for the rest of the season.
He's got the foot injury, and who knows how he's going to come back from that. So, I mean, again, we all know what type of move that was. I think we're going to get into that a little bit more.
So that's what I want to talk about. That's the depressing thing about all of this. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Are we going to be able to fit Robin anywhere in the show? I don't want to just fit it in a random spot, but I need to talk about Rob for at least a second.
Why are you doing this?
Bobby, I got to mute you 1 second because you're crashing pans behind you.
Yeah, man, I've been hitting mute too.
It's killing me right now. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Jimmy. You can go on your
Jimmy was fuming.
Did I miss something? Did I miss something with Rob not playing? Is there a reason why Rob's not playing tonight? Like, is everything okay personally with him? Did I miss something?
He had a kid.
I know he had a kid.
Yeah.
He had a kid like 2 days ago, right?
Paternity leave.
Yeah. So is that
Jimmy,
it now?
Jimmy,
So
don't go down this road, Jimmy. Just don't go down this road.
Serious question.
I have seen this before. He was able to.
I've seen this movie, Michael Felger.
No. He was able to miss the game.
Yes,
he was able to miss.
Yes.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
No.
Thank you. He was able to miss the game for the birth of his child, which I fully support. But do NBA players are they getting like a couple weeks paternity leave? Is that in like the new like collective bargaining agreement that I didn't see or something? Like, why can't he be at the game tonight? The kid was born. We saw the pictures. I'm very happy for him. But why can't he play in the game 2 days later?
One person.
They obviously need him. And
again, I personally
couldn't they have used him tonight?
Jimmy's out here like, just hand him to the nanny and keep it moving, Rob. Keep it moving.
Bro, I don't know where like the baby lives, if he's in the area or not, but like you could go a couple hours, like you could play the game. Like the team needs you. They're paying you a lot of money to play in these games.
Hey, no one is more supportive of the chat than I, and they're killing you right now.
It's 2 days later. It's not like it's just normal. It's not normal. Usually, like you come back and play. Like I wouldn't expect him to miss the birth of his child.
Jimmy, let me just throw this out there to you, okay? Today is January 19th. Today is actually my son's birthday, and I'm going to tell you right now.
Look at that, perfect.
I'm going to tell you right now. I took a week off to be born, and I don't give a damn who feels any kind of way. I would do that 100 times out of 100 times, even if I had to cover the national, even if I had to blow off the national championship, or anything like that, because I can't get that moment back. I can't. So I can understand fans who would love for Rob to be out there, but to me, that's Rob's call. That should be his decision.
It is his call.
I can't get bent out of shape either way, because I mean, if Rob came, let's say Rob, his girlfriend has the baby and he plays like the same night that she gives birth, would people be up in arms about that? Yeah. Thinking like, why? Well, it's so insensitive. Why? He doesn't have his priority. I mean, no matter what he decided to do, is the point I'm trying to make is there's going to be a segment that's not going to be happy with it. He's either not giving Moment enough credit and giving it enough time to marinate, or he's just milking it and he should have his ass out there playing basketball.
No, listen.
I'm happy
Jimmy. You know Tom Lloyd will take his time. Come on.
I'm happy that he was able to be there for the birth of his child. Obviously, I support that 100%. I'm just saying, like, okay, like you probably could have played in the game and still like been there for your kid. Sherrod, like I'm glad that you spent a week with your kid, but like if you had to step away for a couple hours, I'm sure you could have done that. Like that's all.
Jimmy, it's not.
I have a feeling you took your eyes off.
This isn't like Xbox, Jimmy, where you can just like literally say, "Hey, I'll be right back. I'm just gonna play this quick Xbox game." The NBA isn't work that way, Jimmy. It just doesn't.
The NBA is a completely different.
I'll put it this way. All right,
It's about engagement, right?
Let me throw Jimmy a lifeline here. Okay, I've got multiple kids.
I said what I said.
All right, I got a lot.
Jimmy, you're still my dude, but damn.
I said what I said.
I get it. I get it to a degree. I get it to a degree, which is like you're at a hospital down the street.
And I love kids,
like,
by the way.
If you went home to go get a change of clothes, it would take about as much time as it would take to play in a basketball game. So maybe for your own mental health, maybe you would want to go play basketball and then come back later. You're 6'10". You don't want to be sleeping in those friggin' cots, at the Brigham. It's uncomfortable. I'm just going to go kind of stretch out, get a workout in. I'll be back, honey. Sure, that could happen. Problem is you have no idea what's going on, the circumstances, anything around it. So it's hard to say like, dude, you should have played. It is what it is. But could they have used him? Yes, desperately.
Yes.
Would it have been heroic? And would people have said, look at Rob, the dedication, only one day later he showed up? Yeah, people might have. Other people might have thought he was a really bad dad. So you get criticism both ways on that.
He can't win. No matter what he decided to do, he can't win.
No, he shouldn't care what other people say. He shouldn't care what I say.
So if he shows up, right.
I was just surprised that he wasn't. I just thought maybe he would have been there because
I thought he'd be tonight.
2 days later. I mean, shoot. Yeah. Okay. So at what point is it? At what point should he go back? Should he take a week off like Sherrod? I don't know. Like what's the cutoff?
Look, you know how employers are. And again, even when I took my paternity, they were like, "So you're really going to take the full time, huh?" And I was like, "All right, I'll come back." They don't really want you. Some employers don't really want you to. But Ime said the right things, which was like, "Yeah, if he needs the next one, he'll get the next one." But I think they're kind of hoping It's Friday. What do you think, dude? They only give you 2 days in the hospital, so like, come on back, maybe.
Yeah. I think the kid's gonna. I think the kid will get over it. I love kids. Everyone's like, "Oh, Jimmy, don't have kids. Listen, that's not really it. I'm just like, team could have really used you. Like, enjoyed your time with your kid, and you can go to the game and then you can go back. Like,
all he needed was
to
leave his phone. To upload the Calm app onto his phone, leave it with his wife and baby.
There you go,
guys. Night.
Just like we don't support Jimmy's statement.
I hate this conversation every time.
I know. Well, you can't win. You can't win with the conversation. Like,
no,
it's impossible because you just don't know.
Different. I'm not saying he should miss the kid's birth. I've never been for that. Like, I totally get that. But I'm just saying, like, okay, like. Again, I'm not going to keep bringing it up, but it's a couple days later. That's the difference. So we can move on. Like, it's not that crazy. It's not that crazy of a take.
It's not a crazy take
at all.
It's just.
Actually.
It's
like
not.
Everyone needs to toughen up a bit here. It's not crazy of a take.
It's not a crazy take.
You didn't go Felger. You didn't go miss it altogether. Don't even.
It's not a crazy take, but the chance of you getting
that's the difference, right? It
coming
wasn't
away
Monday.
Clean. Yeah.
It's Wednesday.
You're going to get scorched with this conversation. There's no way that you can go in a conversation and not get scorched.
I thought he played the Celtics thought he would play, and then he didn't at the last minute there. So it's his decision. I don't really care either way. I'm pretty open to guys taking that time, like Sherrod said, and anybody else would take more time than he has. So he's leaning on the high end of it for an NBA guy, I guess, but this is still kind of the low end for a real person in that.
Well, that's not true. So there's tons of people who can't take time or don't take time, but we'll move on.
Are you sure, Jimmy?
That's hard.
It's just not true what Bobby said, but we'll move on.
If you're able to, people would.
Yeah, if you're able to.
So
and he can.
He can.
And he did. Good for him.
He can.
And the Celtics lost. So just keep it moving.
Exactly. KIM, Jimmy. KIM. Keep it moving.
What I did want to mention that we were talking about earlier was the trade. The trade that they did make was it got Bobby, it got Bobby excited for a little bit. You get Bol. I've seen this guy play. Yeah, Bobby, it moved. Bobby got excited.
Didn't you hear
it was a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Bobby got excited, but at the end of the day, it's after the initial dust settles and you're like, that's a name. It's obviously very clear that what it was, and it was a salary move, which is fine because that's value, has some value to them. But I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of jumped all over it because it signifies what's coming, which is nothing. And that's what sucks is everyone was like, I had a friend ask me, he's like, why are you so mad on Twitter? Or why are people killing this trade? And I was like, it seems perfectly reasonable. Yes, the trade is perfectly reasonable. It's smart. You're shaving salary. You're trading nothing for nothing and getting under the tax. Nothing bad about that. Absolutely good bookkeeping on your part. Who knows? You're taking a flyer on a player. Maybe you can keep and might develop for you down the road. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Probably not. Probably straight bookkeeping. What it is, though, it signifies what is likely the goal of the season, which is the fear everybody had all along is they're not spending into the tax. And every article written about it today is, obviously it's obvious because they've made it obvious. This is a priority. And every move they make. So it's very easy to say what Wick has been saying. I'll spend into the tax for a contender.
And he's done that.
And that absolves you of having to do anything here because no one can argue that this team is a contender. So is everyone okay with this? Is everyone okay with not spending into the tax, dumping resources, just getting under the tax for the sake of saving money? We're not worried about repeat offender stuff here. This is strictly saving Wick money.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me to spend a crap load of money if you're not going to be a title contender. You know this. You know that there's nothing that you can do deal-wise that's going to catapult you into that top 3, top 4 conversation. And if that's the case, why? Why would you spend? To me, your goal should be to create as competitive a roster as possible to figure who should stay and who should go. I look at guys like Pritchard. I look at guys like Neesmith. I look at guys, some of the younger, the Grant Williams of the world. And to me, this season is so critical to see what those guys are capable of doing that anything you can do to save money outside of that, you do. You absolutely do. Because, Bobo, and again, you look at some of the deals they've done in the past, the result often was significantly greater than what the expectation. Like when they traded for Isaiah Thomas, they were just hoping to get a little spark plug off the bench that could help them win a few games. The next thing you know, he's a 2-time All-Star and a top 5 MVP. So is Bobo going to be that good? I don't think. But shit, I mean, he is definitely worth rolling the dice on if you're the Celtics.
I know, but yeah. But my counter to that is this, Sherrod. When you're doing this, and again, credit to the Celtics for not having to give away anything to get under the tax, but they have given away things to get to shave money. And so you gave away the Desmond Bane pick, which bit you in the ass. And again, it seems just to save $4 million, $4.5 million. And you gave away another pick to shave some salary here in the Kemba Horford deal, who right now that looks like it could be a fairly useful player. You've missed on Romeo. Everyone bear with me. You've missed on Romeo, Neesmith, Grant, and Pritchard in the sense of none of them are impact. They're not all busts, and you might get some value out of them, but you missed. They're not making you better. So that's 4 misses plus Bane 5 plus selling a pick. For the Kemba deal 6. That's 6 blown draft picks. That's friggin' crazy to me. And that's the reason they're the position they're in. But a mentality where you're not always trying to get better at whatever cost, if the only cost is money, is going to make you do dumb shit. And it's gonna make you miss opportunities. So I think you can look at this trade and say, great, they got under the tax. I guess that's useful. You can also look at it and say the one playable piece in this was a floor spacing shooting guard that went to a different team. Why couldn't you have made the trade for the guard and let the other people cut salary? Why did you take the salary cutting portion of that trade? Why couldn't you make a small move that would make you a little bit better? What's wrong with that? Like that's
it's infuriating.
And that if you're a Celtics fan, you're like, so you don't care at all if we're a little better. We're watching your team, we're investing.
And they need to get a lot better.
Yeah, and they need to get a lot better, which means And the problem is you can't get a lot better without a bevy of draft picks or up-and-coming players on your roster or tradable assets to swing big, which means you're going to have to get better a little bit at a time, which means you should be looking for every opportunity when you make a trade to get a little bit better because you don't have a lot of opportunities. And if you keep moving pieces around the board just to save money, you're going to be left with nothing. So any opportunity, if you find a team that wants to cut salary, you get the guy. Don't be the team that's giving, that's cutting it. I think that's where fans are looking at it. So I get it from a perspective that they're not contenders, but you can't keep passing up opportunities to improve. That's it. I'm done.
I don't think there's a clear-cut move that would like the whole consolidate the trash at the end of your bench for a rotation guy. I just don't think that's realistic, though, John. I mean, yeah, this is sort of the sign that they're not going to maybe swing for the fences here before heading into trade season. But
definitely
didn't we know that already? Didn't we kind of call this a bridge year to begin with? We just didn't think it'd be this bad, right? We didn't think they'd be a solid 500 team throughout. I mean, maybe some of us did, but I didn't. And I just think this is the result of that. You're sort of in a tough spot where you have to wait and just get yourself under the tax. I mean, to their, to Wick, with one good thing about Jalen missing so many games today, he's probably not going to get those incentives, right? So, Wick's looking at that as well. And I think he's looking at this entire year, and that's through that same scope, that this is a bridge year, and Celtics fans may not want to hear that. But, I mean, look at these pieces that we're talking about. Look at this bench that we've been, for lack of a better word, shitting on all season. We've been making fun of this bench or saying not kind things about these weapons coming off of it.
Bobby, do you have any comment on that?
I thought I lost you guys.
Yeah, the tricky thing we'll have to figure out here is whether they forewin opportunity here. Like that's gonna be the key thing. Could you have used Juancho's salary in kind of a salary?
That's the other thing.
Move that I talked about.
Yeah, but that shows you what the market's like.
That's
right
something
now,
they can.
But that was
something
the
they can still do. But that restriction's in place.
Wancho's value was not to shave
the market's pretty
salary.
stacked.
Wancho's value was to stack salary.
It was
right,
to get money
more
here.
upset.
I agree.
Right, and that's another one.
You can't get him anymore. Well, not the way I had it in mind.
I think it's demoralizing. I think you are. Like I said, you're really stuck a little bit here. You either make those trades where if the only thing you're giving up is money, you make trades to improve. If you can get assets and you're willing to take a step back to take a step forward, that's fine. But you keep running in place and the only thing that's happening is you're avoiding paying a tax. That's not going to play. That's the only thing that's not going to play with a fan base. I think there's plenty of people who'd be happy with a couple small moves and made some small improvements for the current product on the team. And I think those same people would be happy if they just said, Smart, Richardson, Horford, you can have anything. If you can get a first round pick or two or something out of that down the road value, people will take that too, because it's building towards something better either now or later. But just moving pieces around the chessboard just to shave a couple of bucks, and that's the only move you make, and if that's all they end up doing at the deadline is just that last move to get them under the tax, that's going to suck.
Right.
John, I agree with you with that. I mean, I believe that this is just, the hors d'oeuvre to the
first
main
piece.
Entree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, that's a good thing, because this is not going to dramatically shift your roster, even from a financial standpoint. It's not going to just, all of a sudden you can now spend, willy-nilly all you want to.
Right.
But this is where you Celtics fans, you got to trust Brad, that he knows what the hell he's doing, that he's going to figure out a way to get you either that playmaker,
if he's being allowed to,
well, see, again,
you always have restrictions, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think he's being allowed to, Sherrod?
I do.
Yeah.
I think Brad enough cachet with the front office. If he wants to go out and get player X, and that player can be a significant impact player, difference maker for them, I don't think he's going to get any. I don't think he's going to prohibit. Now, if you're talking about Tobias Harris, who's making too much damn money, that's a problem. That would be a problem. Sure. But if you're talking about if let's say all of a sudden the Phoenix Suns say, hey, we want to trade Chris Paul, you're going to figure out a way to do that, because that dramatically changes
Different, of
calculus.
course. For impact, you empty the drawers. But another thing, go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Well, we need to just call it what it is. I mean, it is a move for tax purposes. I mean, it's not like the Celtics went out and was like, we got to get Bobo and PJ Dozier on a blown ACL. Like, that's not plan A. That's not like what they envisioned, you know, the direction
No,
the
because
team
Bobo
was
was to
going.
go to Detroit.
Yeah, but
That's the
thing
baffling part about
this. This to me is like the beginning of waving the white flag in the season because of what you guys mentioned earlier. Originally, you thought Hernangomez could have been a piece to add to something, to, you know, bring in a bigger player to match salaries and all that. They must
you don't know if you could or could have. There's weeks to go. It could have come up.
They must
There
have
could
an
been
idea.
opportunity.
Why would they just jump at this? Why was
Because they had a chance to get under the
Save
tax,
money,
and it
save
feels like they
money.
needed to.
Yeah.
Yes, the opportunity came up once the bowl deal fell through.
But theoretically, they should be able to get under the cap, you know, in the next couple of weeks if this is.
This was the
type of
easiest and
level of
most
move that it
painless
takes.
way to do it, though. It's
Right,
almost like.
and that's
Did
what
you
it
see
is.
the way the? Do you
But
see the way the reporting came out? It was like the Spurs. They got their future pick here, and they got off a guy they probably weren't going to keep. And the Nuggets, they got the shooter and the depth they needed, and they got rid of the two guys who couldn't play for them off the bench here. And the Celtics, they really needed to get under that tax line, and they did it here. Oh my Lord!
That's another narrative that like the entire national media talks about.
Like
Everyone's
they needed
accepted.
to. It was
they
crucial.
need to get under the tax. Like, oh, we're all gonna, you know, we're all just gonna explode if we don't get under the tax.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand. Once you realize that you're not good enough to win with the roster, why not get under the tax?
It does make sense. It's just a
I
frustrating
totally
position to have.
I totally get two separate things. Like, I totally get why they're doing it, but it doesn't make it like.
Here's the thing,
I'm
too.
not gonna
It
say,
doesn't make sense in some ways.
But I believe, Jimmy, I
that
believe
they're in this.
I believe everything you do should be first towards improving, and when you don't then save to make, again, if this is the first domino to fall and it's get under, have a little bit more, make another move here, or get as far under as you can now, because we are going to make a deal to absorb some salary, which will put us into the tax. So if I don't have to go 20 million into the tax, I only have to go 10 million in, because we are going to add. Let's lessen the pain now for when we do make that move. Then everyone will feel different. However, if this heads down that line of them just making another move to shave those last 2 million, and that's it, then, like I said, then that's going to suck. So people are bracing for that. That's what I think.
I'm bracing for it too. I do disagree, though, that this precludes them from doing other stuff.
It doesn't.
This allows them to keep Schroeder in many ways, because they're only 800 over the tax now. You dump Bruno, Bowler, Dozier, and it's done. So you don't have to trade Schroeder if you don't get a return you don't like here. And you can match salary. You can do all that to stay under the tax. I just made a trade in the machine today that keeps them right about where they are salary-wise. So, like, there's still a million different things they can do here, but it is just a worrisome sign that that's going to dictate everything they do here. So even if there are opportunities that could help them make the step in the improvements that they need to toward the long way away that they are from contending here, you got to start doing it now. And Josue, you mentioned that there might not be a lot of opportunity here. I don't know how you can tell weeks out. I really don't. Like, there was even news today that the Kings are going to look to sell off some guys. Those are guys that could help you. Atlanta, I think, is more than willing to consider a bunch of different stuff. Philly, obviously, is the center of everything right now.
Transform your season, though. Like, I don't think.
But you're not in a position to do that, and I think everybody's gotten that in their heads that like Beal or Levine or this one big deal is gonna save the day. You gotta get your shooter. You gotta get your playmaker. You gotta find some young talent.
Yeah.
You're so far away in terms of personnel from being good, and if you do nothing at this deadline besides dump Blancho, I think that's a disastrous. I'm even willing to sell, and that certainly seems to be something that they're looking at here with the Horford news.
Well, who floats
Richardson.
that? Who floats that? Is that the Celtics putting it out there so they can deny it later, but to see if there's any interest? Because I don't believe teams are calling for Richardson and Smart. You know,
it's not for much,
Agents.
but it certainly will. It's certainly something that they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that, John, because they know the predicament the Celtics are in. You know, it's like, if you guys want to get better, you know, if you guys need help to facilitate a trade, we'll take one of those pieces. I mean, but again, the terms and what's being sent to the Celtics is probably not something that they're in love with right now.
I get worried hearing Brad too, and I know it's probably just a cliche that he's leaning on, but if it is the driving factor that you're not going to make any move if it doesn't get you any closer to winning a championship, you are not in a position to do that. The rest of your roster is in such a state of disarray that you need to start to kind of climb the ladder here. And this could be the bottom floor. I think this is a move that makes sense in a vacuum. But if it is something that we find out in 2-3 weeks here was the only thing that they're doing here, that's where it gets really frustrating, because you have to take a direction now. You still haven't, in terms of improving or in terms of selling. And this isn't enough of a sell to put you in position to do anything going forward. Honestly, like, Bowl and Dozier, if they impact this team into the future, it'll be a massive surprise. And I think it's a nice bonus to what you did here with the cap shedding and not giving up anything to do that cap shedding. But it's not anything that gets me excited enough to think that they did anything here beside that.
Well,
it could happen, but it's probably not.
It's what you think the motivation is. The other part of the report that I wanted to mention, and then we will wrap it because there'll be more to come and things will heat up as well. But, at the very end of the athletic report today was Stevens played it conservatively when he first came on board this summer, passing on proposals within his front office to make bolder moves, according to team sources. While the time to jump all in on change isn't necessarily approaching in February, he needs to start setting the table. So again, not a detail there, but a vibe that Brad had an aversion to anything big and splashy early. And fine, maybe you didn't want to come in and just fire everybody in the first day on the job. But if you don't have the aversion to do something bold or drastic, I mean, if you don't have if you don't have that in you and you're going to play it conservative, there's a very small chance they're going to improve. You got to take a swing somewhere. I just don't know where it is. It might not be in February, and that's fine. This might just be get out of the tax and reload in the off season.
You have to take a risk. The thing you're going to do is
you're probably going to have to take a risk somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of assets. There's not a lot of opportunity or players that are going to be interested in coming here. So you have to take a risk on a guy that could transform the dynamic on your team, the leadership situation, certainly. I really do sense a staleness here. I do, and I felt that way all year. You just don't see you see some effort at fixing things. Yeah, the group as a whole right now just isn't meshing, and the bottom parts on the roster aren't working, and at the top you do have big questions there. Like, I don't even think shaking things up at the bottom of the roster could necessarily be the answer, because the way they're faltering in the fourth quarter, which is kind of the definition of this team this year, that's the key players that are doing that. So you could go get a shooter, you could go get a playmaker, and still have it be a disaster there. Like, just patching kind of the edges here may not be the answer, but you have to try, right? Because you haven't tried. You haven't tried to funnel some picks in the one player, consolidate a little. I mean, they still haven't consolidated. They have all these picks, they have all these young players, they have all this salary.
Well, now they need them.
Not going to use it.
The roster's garbage, so.
It's the only way they have to make a deal, though, and that's not going to change in the summer. I don't think there's an immense amount of opportunity that's going to explode.
We all know where
summer.
This is headed in the offseason, and we all know where the conversation is headed. You've got one chip, to do something that's roster changing.
I disagree.
And I'm just saying that's the only one, or else you just sit there and you just are this team.
Why didn't we talk about the picks once during this show? Like, we're going to go to this again, but we can't talk about picks.
Because they aren't picks. They have one pick every year, that's it. It's not the picks. It's the same story, Bobby. They don't have that up-and-coming player to match with picks. Every team wants the bird in the every team wants the bird in the hand, the player who plays now, the Halliburton, the whomever, and the picks for the star. It doesn't work without that thing. You don't have that thing. So nobody just wants your three lottery ticket, your 3 shots at another Romeo. That's not good enough for people. They need something guaranteed to make a trade for a real piece. They don't have it. So they can't do it. They can't. It's just picks alone isn't enough. That's where they are. Every team's got picks, but the Celtics also don't have that thing to pair with it.
All right, I'm worried one day Brown and Tatum are going to walk, and they'll just
use all
the picks.
They might. So you might have to show one of them the door to avoid that. And again, it's not here.
That's how the NBA.
I don't know why that's never a move that they've been willing to take, but they did use one to dump a guy. Of course.
Who knows? Anyway, we are going to wrap because we're gonna. This conversation is going to repeat itself. Naturally, because the trade deadline's approaching. What is the trade deadline, the actual date?
February 10th.
So, ton of stuff.
Thinking about it all year, John, all year.
Yeah, leading up to that. But we've got more games coming up Friday night. Who do we got Friday?
I don't even
Portland.
know.
Dame.
Trailblazers.
Oh, Portland without
Portland, no
Dame.
Dame.
Chauncey.
Chauncey. And then we got Sherrod's got his buddy. His Pistons connect. And then
Hey,
Sherrod,
let's
go.
get him on the show. Let's get him
Where
on
we
the
going,
show,
Sherrod? What's
Sherrod.
up? North End?
No, we're not ready for that.
Yeah.
No, not
That
yet.
might come
Yeah.
with a price tag that we can't quite afford.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We are in Washington on Sunday as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sunday
Stay tuned
afternoon,
for that.
Wizards.
Any of you guys watching Yellow Jackets, by the way?
Yellow
No.
Jacket.
But I heard about it.
You should watch it.
Yeah. I actually, you know what? I started it and I was just like, it was late at night. I was like, no, I need to give this more of my attention. So but I'm going to try it. I heard good things.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my last binge. I have to go watch my last episode of Expanse right now. But that's it. We're going to wrap up the show. Thank you guys. I'm sorry Jimmy offended you by the stuff that he said. That was pretty shitty.
Yeah.
I do think
He
you're
just
real.
changed the subject too. You want to say it's so
Couple
bad?
of softies in the chat. That's okay.
I do think you're real, guys. You are real, and we count on you. So thank you for turning out every game. I almost did an apology cam to the chat. But
For what? For what?
Because I told them they weren't the real world. But anyway,
They're our world.
they're our world. So thank you guys for turning out again. We're back on Friday with more, and then at least Bobby, possibly a couple of guys traveling to DC for that game on Sunday. People want to trade me. That's fine. I'll do that. But until then, thanks again. Once again, quick reminder, LinkedIn.
No, we're not trading John. It's a rebuilding year. You know?
It is a rebuilding year. I'm that veteran presence, right?
Although if we do
right,
need to get,
right.
I'll ask Nick if we need to get under the tax. John might have to go.
I know. Yeah, I am expensive. LinkedIn.com/garden. Post your first job for free. Once again, LinkedIn.com/garden. Post your first job for free. Thanks again for watching. Celtics lose to the Hornets. Full team, maybe back on Friday. Could be the first time in a long time.
I don't
Jimmy,
know.
what do you think?
I don't know. I hope not. I would hate that if that was the case. I hope everyone takes their time coming back.
Yeah. Take your time. Everybody slow play it. Hey, maybe
Everybody-
go have a kid. If you
what?
haven't had a kid, go have one.
He'll meet
You know
them
what?
in DC.
Everyone's up late tonight. You know what? Everyone just take tomorrow off. If you're watching the show, tell them I told you could take tomorrow off.
Yeah, call out.
Yep.
All right. Good night, guys. Take care.
See ya.